before I can do anything, I have to thank my colleagues up here. As we traveled across the state and we were opponents, I had some of the most memorable and enjoyable time talking with them before we'd get up and beat each other up. But we did it in a way that showed respect, and it's just like what Reverend Harris said. At the end of the day, we knew what was at stake. We knew that the future of the nation was at stake, and that our election, ultimately, no matter which one of the great candidates won, the election was going to actually be that most important election this year. Now, since the election, I've had the opportunity to speak with all of them, and I'm pleased to report that they're all ready to support our campaign, and now what we have to do is come together and defeat Kay Hagan. But before I let them lead the stage, one more time, would everybody please thank them for their service, their commitment, and their patriotism. And ladies and gentlemen, there is one other person that stands above all the rest that I have to thank. Because, campaigns are, being Speaker of the House, I'm accustomed to being a little bit of a punching bag. You get used to it, and you take it in stride. But campaigns make it even a little bit tougher. But the only way you make this happen, if you got a loving wife, is with her right by your side. And I love my wife, Susan Tillis. I want to introduce her. I also see, my governor and my friend, Pat, doing what he does, just kind of hanging out in the crowd over there. I don't know if y'all see, but our governor is a delegate. Check his credentials. But I'd also tell you what a sea change over 2 years. When we came in 2011, the House didn't have a supermajority. We had a hostile governor. We had a governor that tried to do everything she could to prevent us from fulfilling the promises that we made when you all worked so hard to get us into a majority. But we succeeded in spite of her, and I like to think in some small way we were responsible for Pat having somebody else to run against in that second term. But I have to tell you that I think the moment when I realized we were in a different place just after the governor had been elected, and we'd meet for breakfast every Thursday morning while we're in session, was one morning when I was going over there, and I know some of y'all probably heard this story, but I was late, and normally I'd walk over to the mansion before I'd walk over to the legislative building, but I was running late, so I drove my truck over, and as I was pulling up in the entrance to the governor's mansion, there's this sort of box that you have to speak to security to get in. They didn't know I was coming or who I'd be. They'd never seen my truck before. But I rolled down the window, and they said, "May I help you?" And I said, "Yeah, I'd like a spicy chicken biscuit to go." And the state trooper on the other line, deadpan, I mean, not a second delay, he said, "Roger that, sir, that'll be $2.19, please drive through." But that's the sort of, we're separate branches. We check each other. That's important, but that doesn't mean we can't be friends and we can't find ways to have fun. And Pat McCrory has been a godsend. And what he's done in a year and a half has been extraordinary. And we all owe it to this country, we all owe it to this state to make him the greatest governor that's ever served the great state of North Carolina. Now, on election night, I was talking with some people. They said, "Well, Tom, what do you think about when you're thinking about running for the Senate?" And I said, "Well, I think about a lot of things, but I have this recurring daydream over the last year. And it goes something like this. I'm in the Senate chamber on opening day, and a somewhat confused Senator Reid walks into the chamber looking for a seat. And I get to say, 'Mr. Minority Leader, it's somewhere back there.'" I very seldom speak from notes, and I don't have a prepared speech, but I was trying to think about the things that we need to remind everybody of, that Kay Hagan has allowed, and that Barack Obama has done, that Harry Reid has done. The list is too long for me to memorize it all. Invariably, you forget something. But let's think about why we are working so hard to defeat Kay Hagan. We're working hard to defeat Kay Hagan because she has failed the people of North Carolina. She has failed the people of the United States of America. Let's take a look at it. $12 trillion debt when this president came into office, viewed as the nation's greatest national security threat. Now it's approaching $18 trillion. Obamacare, a program that cannot be paid for, that I believe is going to harm businesses and on individuals at the worst possible time when they need that money just to pay the bills, to pay their employees. A war on coal and a war on energy that will drive up the energy prices of the poorest people in this state and in this nation and make us less secure abroad. For 6 years, Kay Hagan has voted with Barack Obama 95% of the time. I've got a couple of questions for you. In North Carolina, does a senator who votes with Barack Obama 95% of the time represent our interests and values? No. Does a senator who casts the deciding vote for Obamacare represent our values? No. Does a senator who turns her back on the legislature when we're trying to provide the poorest children the opportunity for education choice, to get them out of problem schools and give their parents a chance to change and transform their lives, and she opposes it, represent our values? No, she doesn't. They've had it their way for the last 6 years, and now it's time for us to have it our way. And ladies and gentlemen, that's why I'm running for the U.S. Senate. Now, 3 years ago, you were all foot soldiers in a march to a conservative revolution that has literally transformed this state. And you heard Governor McCrory, Pat, say, enjoy the moment. When we come and talk to you about the tax cuts, when we come and talk with you about the unemployment reductions, when we come and talk with you about all the great things that have been done, they've only been done because of you. You were very much a part of the revolution. We were simply there to make sure that the promises that we all made were fulfilled. And for that, I thank you all. But now we've got a new revolution. And it's ironic that North Carolina, of all states, would be the state that is most likely going to be where the deciding battle is fought as to whether or not we win this revolution. It reminds me of the American Revolution. As a matter of fact, the circumstances that are leading up to it remind me of the American Revolution, right? We've got a leader who's almost dictating like a king. He seems to have no respect for the institution of the Congress and separation of powers. He continues to push more pressure down onto the states, give us fewer options, and make it more difficult for us to take care of our citizens. Well, you know, the Tar Heel State came from the American Revolution, right? We're Tar Heels. We stick in. We stick our heels to the ground. And interestingly enough, I come from Mecklenburg County, which is one of the areas that's known as the Hornet's Nest. Well, Barack Obama and Kay Hagan have stirred up a hornet's nest, and I'm guaranteeing you it's going to make a mark in November. Now, the one thing that I'll tell you, and I'm not going to speak much more because I know y'all been sitting and we've got other business to do, but I will tell you that I'm glad that the primary happened. I believe it gave us a great opportunity to talk about the things that we as conservatives believe in. I believe that all the candidates brought up great points. I believe they're all points that we share. But it's important to remind us of why we are conservatives. But now the time is to bring the battle to Kay Hagan. Now is the time to get the message out that North Carolina is the state that will be the majority-making state. And with a majority in the U.S. Senate, we can slow this president down. We can control appointments. We can begin to challenge his legislating through executive orders. We can begin to repair this nation. And I'll leave you with the note, if you remember nothing else about what I've talked about, I hope you'll remember this part. And it's a part about optimism. I told this story last night, and it's based on an experience down east during the campaign, when I shared with a group of people that I have great optimism that if we win this election, we can begin to improve things immediately. I believe that we can return to being that exceptional nation that only America in history, the only exceptional nation in history. We can be back to that nation that our allies admire and that our foes respect. We can do it because it's been done before. I had a lady come up to me, I'm 53 years old, and she came up to me and she said, Mr. Speaker, she referred to me by my title, and said, I like your thought of optimism, but I really believe it's too late. I don't believe that we'll ever see us return to the greatness that we all seen in our lifetime. And I said, ma'am, you look to be about my age, and my guess is that you were around in the late 70s. And we've been here before. Think about it. Russia going wherever they wanted to go. The Middle East overrunning our embassies. The energy crisis, the jobs issues, the economy. It's the same sort of environment that when I was 19 years old, living on my own in a trailer park and working in a warehouse, not going to college yet. That's the world I lived in. And in a few short years, Ronald Reagan came on the scene, working with a Congress that required him to also work with the other side. But he ultimately, over the course of just a few short years, we turned this nation around. And over the course of a decade, we won the Cold War. So, ma'am, I know it can be done because it's been done before. What we need to do is recognize that we can, through this election, change the course of this nation. And we can provide the same opportunities. Think about it. A kid living in a trailer park, working in a warehouse in 1979. Going on, took me until I was 37 years old to get my 4-year degree, but tenacity paid off. But a partner at Price Waterhouse, Speaker of the House of North Carolina, and now running for the U.S. Senate. I said, ma'am, I am a living example of the realization of the American dream. And we owe it to every one of those kids today, in those same circumstances, to go to Washington, to go to Raleigh, and make sure that they have the opportunity to realize that American dream. And with your help, this is a revolution that we will win. And when we win, we will begin to do in Washington what we've done in North Carolina for the last 3 years, and I will work every single day to make sure that you're proud that you supported me and that you voted for me, and you were a foot soldier in this revolution. I love North Carolina. It is my home. I love this nation. It's the greatest nation on earth. Now let's work together and get it back to the great nation that we know it can be. Thank you. God bless.